Hey everybody, welcome back. Okay, so we're continuing our reading of Thomas Jefferson, about him. Alright, we're on page 100, towards the bottom, okay? But who was best to draft the Declaration, which was due for consideration and a vote in fewer than 3 weeks? John Adams thought Jefferson should do it, a decision with roots a secret conversation that had taken place 2 years before. In 1774, on the eve of the First Continental Congress, Benjamin Rush, and a few other delegates had met the Massachusetts contingent on the outskirts of Philadelphia, taking tea in a private room in an inn in Frankfort, Pennsylvania, 6 miles from the city. Rush and his colleagues offered Adams and company some practical political counsel. Quote, "We were all suspected of having independence in view," Adams recalled long afterward, "and Massachusetts seemed ahead of much of the rest of America." Adams continued, "Now," said they, "you must not utter the word independence, nor give the least hint or insinuation of the idea." Adams said that? Don't utter the word independence. Ooh. Neither in Congress or any private conversation. If you do, you are undone. For the idea of independence is as unpopular in Pennsylvania and in all the middle and southern states as the Stamp Act itself. Look at that, going against the grain, family. Revolution wasn't easy, right? Never is. No man dares to speak of it. Moreover, you are the representative of the suffering state. Oh, I see. So it's like, hey, your state is the one suffering. If you mention revolution, you're going to lose support, and it's just not going to be ideal. Interesting. Boston and Massachusetts are under a rod of iron. British fleets and armies are tyrannizing over you. You yourselves are personally obnoxious to them and all the friends of government. You have been long persecuted by them all. Your feelings have been hurt, your passions excited. You are thought to be too warm, too zealous, too sanguine. You must be, therefore, very cautious. You must not come forward with any bold measures. You must not pretend to take the lead. You know Virginia is the most populous state in the Union. They are very proud of their ancient dominion. They think that they have a right to take the lead. And the southern states and the middle states, too, are too much disposed to yield it to them. Wow, so notice this. So we have the middle states. Notice these terms here. State of the Union, southern states, middle states, and then Virginia. Adams appreciated the straight talk. This was plain dealing, and I must confess that there appeared to be so much wisdom and good sense in it that it made a deep impression on my mind. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Deep impression on my mind. And it had an equal effect on all my colleagues, he recalled. 2 years later, meeting with Jefferson in the early summer of 1776, Adams had what he called the Frankfort Advice. The town was actually Frankfort. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Naming advice, like getting advice from that area and then naming it after it. To a correspondent who wondered why Jefferson had been invested with such responsibility, Adams wrote, "You inquire why so young a man as Jefferson was placed at the head of the committee for preparing a Declaration of Independence. I answer, it was the Frankfort Advice to place Virginia at the head of everything." Interesting. So the Jefferson talking in Frankfort, given the Frankfort Advice, that helped propel him to be a part of the movement even more for independence. This is interesting. To place Virginia at the head of everything, there were 3 committees appointed at the same time. One for the Declaration of Independence, another for preparing Articles of Confederation, and another for preparing a treaty to be proposed to France. Okay, so what do we got here? We got committees of appointment, Declaration of Independence committee as well, and then another group that wants to prepare the Articles of Confederation, and then people got to work on a treaty for France. Mr. Lee was chosen for the Committee of Confederation, and it was not thought convenient that the same person should be upon both. Yeah, it seems kind of stressful, right? You want to split up that responsibility, make sure the other person in charge doesn't get overwhelmed so that they can focus on their duty and not have their attentions spread too thin. Mr. Jefferson came into Congress in June 1775 and brought with him a reputation for literature, science, and a happy talent of composition. Writings of his were handed about, remarkable for the peculiar felicity of expression. Ah, so again, we remember in the past, yes, he did have definitely had a fancy for literature. Remember his book collection was quite unique, and remember when he had the house fire that he lost a bunch of his books and was pretty sad about it. Remember how his dad told him that a personal library is very important. Interesting. Though a silent member in Congress, he was so prompt, frank, and explicit. I like that. Prompt, just like quick to, respond. Prompt, frank, so it's not beautified sometimes. It's just like, it's pretty frank, pretty blunt, pretty straightforward, right? And explicit, it's clear cut, right? There's no like omission and leading off like, what are you talking about? It's like, nope, it's is what it is. It's pretty clear. And decisive upon committees and in conversation. Not even Samuel Adams, it's funny there's a beer of Samuel Adams, was more so. That he soon seized upon my heart, and upon this occasion I gave him my vote, and did all in my power to procure the votes of others. I think he had one more vote than any other, and that placed him at the head of the committee. I had the next highest number, and that placed me second. The committee met, discussed the subject, and then appointed Mr. Jefferson and me to make the draft. I suppose because we were the two first on the list. Dang. I wonder if Samuel Adams, like, if he could try and time travel and tell him, hey, bro, you got a beer named after you in the future? And then that's only anybody really remembers about you? As Adams recalled the ensuing conversation with Jefferson, the Virginian suggested that Adams himself write the draft. I will not, Adams said. You should do it, Jefferson said. Oh, no. Why will you not? You ought to do it. I will not. Why? Reason enough. What can be your reasons? Reasons first, you are a Virginian, and a Virginian ought to appear at the head of this business. Reason second, I am obnoxious, suspected and unpopular. You are very much otherwise. Reason third, you can write 10 times better than I can. Well, if you are decided, I will do as well as I can. Very well. When you have drawn it up, we will have a meeting. That's an awesome dialogue between Jefferson and Adams. There was a time when Adams was sort of unpopular, right? Oh, the banter. Oh, that's so cool. Reasons enough. This is like I said, clear to the point, So look at that. So indeed, Adams too is pretty frank and explicit, not just Jefferson, right? Interesting to have a Virginian. This is something we have to remember. These Virginians were very much part of this revolution. Wow. Very informative. Very informative, man.